Hey everyone, this is Dr. Summer Watson with Core Women. I am going live now. Hope you can join me. I'm just waiting for my guest. It's Saturday. What are you doing? Hopefully you're joining me on this live. We've got a really cool guest today. I'm excited. Let's get excited, everybody. It's Saturday. Come on, join me for this live. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. Hey there, Aalia.
Yet.
Hey there.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Because I forgot sometimes the Wi-Fi actually creates a lag or more issues than not.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so it's just so many people are streaming right now. It's incredible.
I know.
Anyway,
hey, Kimmy.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Invite your friends. Today, I have a really cool guest. I'm trying to adjust this accordingly. Sorry. Can you see me? Okay. So I have a really cool guest, Aalia Lanius. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
I'm excited to have her. She is an entrepreneur. She is a novelist. I have both of her novels, but for some reason I could only find one. And here's one of them, Juggin. The other one is Tough Love. So do you have Tough Love? Do you have it next to you?
You know what? I don't. I've actually been just promoting Juggin because it's
yeah. I have this one. Okay, and then she's also a speaker. She's also done seminars. She is a cancer survivor. Oh my gosh, this woman has done so much. So today we're going to talk about a couple of really interesting things. So we're going to talk about what it's like to have this new normal. And also we're going to talk about, how this might impact compromised immune systems. And then we're going to go into just deeper conversation about other things that and expand from those core subjects. So let's do this.
Do it.
Okay, so how are you? And what's really going on today that you're impacted by, that you feel really impacted by, that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, thank you, first of all, for having me. And how am I? I'm like a lot of people right now, I'm normal in that sense of course I have concerns. Of course, in the back of my mind, I'm planning for worst case scenario, but at the same token, there's this sensibility within me that says, okay, but even the worst case scenario for you does not mean the end of everything, right? And so right. For me, I feel like I just want people to know that I do resonate. I've been going on every day with live streams as you, and I'm so inspired by all the leaders that stand up right now, because that's what I've been saying. If we don't stand up now for people, then really we're just full of it. Wait, can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say a quick hello to everybody. Hi, Viviana. Thank you for joining, taking time out of your day from your writing. So thanks so much. And thank you, everybody. So go on. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's incredible, because we need that right now. We're full of shit. If we're going to tell people like, oh, be this, and then when stuff is really hitting the fan, we're like, oh, pause on everything that's self-focused. So I've been inspired by that, and I've just been doing daily live streams, reaching out to other thought leaders, and how do we from all these different industries share? We're all going through the same thing, but we're going to get through this. Like, that is the goal.
And that is really cool. So let me ask you something, because you have such a unique and rich background, being an entrepreneur, doing seminars, having to juggle a lot. You have how many kids? 4 kids?
4 kids total, and a grandson. I'm technically a grandson.
4 kids, a grandson. No way, that's not even possible. And then you also have written 2 books. You you know, you run your own podcast. She has her own podcast, and you juggle all this. Now, I want to know, because not only do you juggle, but you also are a two-time cancer survivor, three-time cancer survivor. Now, that can cause some significant change and adjustment that is needed in your lifestyle. So how, because this is a new normal, and you having that experience of having to adjust to transition and change a great deal of it, how do you adjust? Give us some tips.
Yeah, like for sure. Thanks. And I got to say, my friends, you got London in the house. I love you. Shout out to you too, Sean. The thing is, I'm familiar. I want people to, you know, I'm familiar with some of the things that are happening right now. For example, people have vacations and trips planned, and you have your life planned out, right? And then suddenly something happens. You get a phone call, or you get instructions, or you get information that suddenly alters that drastically. You can't make plans. You don't know what the future holds for you. You've got to be safe. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. All of these things that we're experiencing, cancer survivors and people who deal with major health issues, we're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Then, like you said, with the new normal, we're familiar with what it's like to say, okay, this is going to get done with real quick. Either I'm going to get cancer and get a surgery, get some treatment, move on, be in remission, and then that'll be the end of that, or I'm going to die, right? Like there's kind of these two, at least for me as a cancer fighter, that was my two options. I didn't realize that I could live with cancer for a period of time, of which I did. I had to go through what's called a new normal. Like I thought things would go back to my quote unquote normal once I went into remission, and then that didn't happen. And so, you know, being familiar with what it's like to think about your finances, your livelihood, how this is all going to impact your family structure, everything I'm familiar with. And I want people to know that. And I think as leaders, we can shine the light for people to say there's hope in the dark, right? Like, this is one thing that needs to be said, because from what I hear, word on the street is people are looking for positive messages right now in the middle of, you know, some concerning information. So, you know, it is just, and I'm not going to lie, I have 2 autoimmune diseases, and I have fibromyalgia as a result of my battles with cancer. Well, the fibromyalgia is more genetic, but I've been on lockdown before everyone else went onto lockdown.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
right. Because you have to separate yourself from other people because of the treatments that you've been under. And so with that said, you know what that feels like. You know what it means to be separated from family, from friends, from animals, from a lot of different people. So this is a transition that you're familiar with. So when you talk about the new normal, or when I actually, you know, what's really interesting to me, because you do juggle so much, and you've, you know, while you're going through this, as you've survived cancer 3 times, having autoimmune diseases, you know what it looks like to self-isolate. Or not isolate, but self-distance. You know, because I don't want people self-isolating. You know what it means to adjust to things that are happening to you emotionally and physically. So can you give us, because you're such a great strategist and such a great, you know, adjuster, you know, to change, give us like some major tips, you know, because I think people out there, they kind of need some ideas. They need some ideas of how we can allay our fears, but at the same time, what we can do to work through this to be more adaptable.
Right. Well, actually, you know, you're the expert, and I'm going to kick this ball to some degree. I'm going to end up giving 3 tips by the time we're done. But I think the most important one, which is something you and I connected on originally way back in the day, we have a very similar mindset, thought process of being proactive in our thinking and our responses as opposed to reactive, right?
Right.
And that, I know you're going to, you know, I'm going to kick that back to you, but I've been given the example of what it's like, and I share this, like, if you fall into the bottom of a well and you fall in there and you're like, oh man, this sucks, this stinks, how, you know, try it out. It's like, okay, you know, that's normal. But then if you just sit there and stay there and don't do any efforts to get yourself out of that situation, you're just being reactive. And my approach and my number 1 tip is don't do that. Be proactive. Look for the freaking little stones that can get you out. Go to online virtual yoga, go to online dance classes, go, you know, log into yours, go to the experts, go to the people who will help you be if you don't know how to think proactively, learn how to. And self-reflection has been very important for me. Actually, going through cancer is when I really got into personal development, because I was the person before Summer that was like, I don't need that type. I don't need someone to tell me common sense thinking.
Right.
Like,
wow. Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was, look, I know I'm not the only person out there who thinks they're intelligent. I wasn't a dummy, and, you know, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And I knew, I grew up with pull yourself up when you fall down. I knew all that.
Right.
I knew
yeah.
it. But the thing is that the methodology and psychology behind some of those things, like where there is a will, there is a way. Right. Those things were not taught to me. They were told to me, but nobody told me how to do that. So,
right.
You know, number one, I'm sure you'll agree, you know, you have some things to say on the proactive, reactive, you know, I'm sure you would agree.
I totally agree. First of all, let me go back a couple of steps here because I want to address some things. I love your analogy of being sucked in the well, you know, and our first response is to cry, you know, is to maybe, you know, be in a mode that we don't necessarily have to be.
Right.
And I say this because the one constant is that we do have control over our emotions. We do. We absolutely do. We don't have to be reactive. We can be proactive, and we can respond versus react. Yes. And so as we react, that's based on a moment. That is based fully in emotion. And so as we respond, though, that is a combination of your unconscious and conscious mind. So that's a matter of taking a step back, knowing how to breathe, knowing how to count through, you know, something that is angst provoking. Yes. And that's causing you maybe some stress. So taking that step back, taking a breather, because the end goal, and here are the goals. How do you want your relationships to end based on your reaction versus your response? Exactly. And Bibiana says, that's great advice, and you're right. Most of us know a good attitude is important, but we forget or don't know how to climb out sometimes. I've been keeping myself busy with creative projects. Beautiful. Yeah. Love that.
Exactly. You know, I tell people, do things that make you feel that you're expressing in a positive and, you know, way that's functional, instead of just doing the breakdown. And, you know, and like you, I mean, it's not to say that I haven't had moments when I was very, very sick. I just so distinctly one of those cry in the shower moments. I was afraid I was going to be passing out. I had when I was diagnosed with cancer, 2 of my children were under 3 years old. And I remember how scary it was to take a shower, fearing I was going to pass out and nobody would be there to help me with my kids. So, you know, and so I had those, but then I got out, I got through that, and I moved forward, and I took it, you know, one day at a time. So that's my number 2.
Okay. So let me stop you there, because I do think this is important. So as you went through that, and you said you had fear, and this is something that's okay. It's okay to express your emotions. It's okay to express the fear, because there are a lot of unknowns to this new normal, so to speak. There are many variables that we just aren't familiar with. We haven't had to take these precautionary measures. So it's okay to be fearful, but don't be stagnant in fear. Don't be frozen in fear. So how can people, you know, and I'm going to put this back onto you, because you have been in a fear, you know, many fear producing situations. So what is the wisdom based on those situations you've been in, having cancer, you know, being a single mom and having cancer, you know, and having to take care of yourself as well as your children, your family, and those around you? How did you cope effectively? What's your wisdom? What are your pearls that you can give?
I mean, again, genuinely, okay, so, you know, to add to that, I was homeless at 14 years old. I've been through things in my life that some people just, when they really understand. I was sexually assaulted 3 times when I was a teenager. I was molested several times as a child. And yes, when you say I've been in fear and not know how to handle situations multiple times in my life, that is absolutely the case. My biggest thing is, you know, I share this story, is connecting with others right now. That's such a resounding for me. So when I was at my worst with cancer, I was laying in a hospital bed. I had only a Wi-Fi connection in my computer. I was about 98 pounds. I had made a video to say goodbye to my kids just in case. Like that's, you know, how severe the circumstances were for me. And I'm not going to lie. It wasn't that my cancer had progressed to a point. It's just that my body was not responding. And I'm going to add to that, the stress that I was putting on myself by not being emotionally aware of things I could do was compounding it, right? Because I mean, that's the thing. Our actions will either help or make a situation worse. So there I am in the bed. I got nothing but a laptop. And I reached out to other cancer survivors for the first time after dealing with it for a year by myself and just bearing that burden all alone. I reached out, and
wow.
Best friend to this day was one of the handful of people. Matthew Zachary, the head of Stupid Cancer, was one of my first support. Angela Maya, Jennifer Pates, all these wonderful people that are still good friends of mine to this day, sisters, family, I call them. And they were the ones who said, get your ass up and fight for those kids, for yourself. You know, they saved my life by reminding me that there was hope in the dark. They
Yay. And you connected. And see, and this is, and I'm going to go back to something that we said earlier. Yes, we are quote unquote social distancing, which is important. It is very important because it's kind of like that pebble you throw in the water that it creates rings, and we will create more rings if we don't follow some guidelines. However, here's the thing. Social isolation is completely different. And that's what it seemed like when you're in fear. Sometimes we tend to draw back, we tend to isolate. And that's maybe what you were doing for that year. So this great pearl of wisdom just now that you gave is connect. Yes. Connect. Because those people after that first year of doing this on your own and trying to maneuver, because you didn't want to ask for help, you didn't want to overburden, you wanted to try and do this on your own. There are multiple reasons why people do this stuff, right? Because we haven't experienced some of the things that you have, or the trauma, or so what we want to do is plan, strategize. So we can't, and sometimes we forget that. We forget to plan and strategize under pressure. I always tell people, and this is one thing this is an example of what I use. If you're left or right-handed, you tend to use that hand all the time. So I'm right-handed. So I write with my right hand. But what happens when I can't write with my right hand? I'm going to have to learn to use my left hand. Why not start using your left hand right now before the change, before the transition you're having to go through? Because then you're equipped with more skills.
Sure. And that's why a lot of people who have actually been through some stuff, though we don't want to catch the coronavirus, and I don't mean to make it sound so like, I'm, for obvious reasons, I don't want to take on coronavirus. I'm cool with taking the challenge, right? I mean, add any more accolades to my little discussion. We don't need coronavirus survivor on top of that.
Right.
It's amazing how that shapes your journey in so many ways. It really does. And that's why a lot of people who have been through certain circumstances are kind of looking at everybody like, yes, look, we just have to get on the same page, work together so that we can get to the point that we need to be at so we can move forward from this, because we know we can survive. Like my husband, he's a executive producer and a film attorney. You know this, one of his latest productions was shut down. Tiffany Haddish, Willem Dafoe, Oscar Isaac were part of the cast. A lower cast member tested positive for coronavirus, and they had to shut down. And my husband's had 3 other productions get pushed back. Of course, Cannes is being, everything that could go wrong right now for the film industry is freaking them all out. And I'm like, you guys, calm down. When all of this settles, people will still need entertainment. People will still, obviously right now people are looking for content. You have to find the silver linings in your issues, and you have to be confident in yourself. So to the third thing I want to say is be prepared to be your advocate. A lot of people don't know how to advocate for themselves, right?
Right.
You have to see this within the work that you do. People do not know, and we're all going to have to get used to that. And I just think it's important that we don't lead with ego, because that's what you were talking about earlier. That ego that told me I need help. I don't need someone else's support. I don't need that antidepressant to help me manage my day. There were things that I told myself that were wrong. And now I tell people, for the people who are afraid, how am I going to pay? Look, I'm not saying that this is the way to go, but my grandmother has a story. My grandfather, it was the 40s and 50s. They had some financial, my grandparents had 6 kids. And there's a story of my grandmother having no money because something happened. My grandfather wasn't getting a paycheck and she had to feed 6 kids. Yeah. She went to a grocery store with a bag. She took some of the things she needed. She wrote a list of what she took. She took it to the store and said, I'll be back with payment for this. Do you remember the days when people used to get stuff from the grocery store on a tab?
Right, right.
Yeah. Other people like, what are you talking about? You could go get a credit. What?
Right.
You had tabs back in the day. And so she went and she did it. And when he got the paycheck, she went back in there. But I mean, nothing was going to prevent her from putting food on the table for her kids. Right. And while I'm not propagating go into stores and start taking food, I'm trying to say people, we are resilient. We are capable of mobilizing together and helping each other get through this. So, but be prepared to advocate for yourself as part of that process.
Well, and I love these 3 things because that is part of the new normal. And if you don't, and here's the issue that I see in regards to advocating for oneself, is a lot of times people don't know where to go. They don't know where to begin. You know, I equate it to, you might go to and I love this, like we may go to a sermon and we may be jazzed and we may come out of that sermon like, yes, I am so excited. I am excited, inspired. But what are the steps? Right. What are the steps to continue that excitement, to continue that movement, that spiritual movement? So I feel like sometimes we forget the steps of, let's show people, not just tell them, you need to advocate for yourself, because sometimes we don't know how to do that. So make sure when you're trying to advocate for yourself, reach out to others who've had to do the same things. When we go back to tip number 2 that Aalia had said about reaching out and networking, network with folks. Choose a network that is supportive of you. Can you hear? Are you there? Yeah. I think we lost sound. We lost sound. Yeah. Okay. So, I lost sound too. Sound. Well, okay. So thank you, everybody. Can you hear me? You can't hear me, huh? So we lost sound. Thank you, everyone. Hold with me. Are you still there? Okay, everybody. She's going to try and come back. Hey
Sorry,
there.
It was like sudden I couldn't hear you and I'm like, oh shoot.
That's okay. That happened to me the other night. I don't know if it's something on my end or there. I don't know if it's a system thing, but thanks everybody so much for hanging out with us. We still have a couple more things to do here in relation to, I did want to touch on, you know, one of the things that you had mentioned earlier about networking. It's so, so important. And remember, don't network just with just anybody. Right. Network with a supportive group of people that understand your needs, people who want to be there for you, who you can be reciprocal in relation to what you can give back as well. You know, create relationships that are sustainable and that are really helpful and supportive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, you know, look, it's not helpful, you know, if you're in the company of people who have a very negative mindset or get completely so overwhelmed by their anxiety, you know, and you do your best to try and lift them up and keep them like focused. But again, you know, what we're doing right now is going to help hopefully people lower that anxiety, focus on the positive. I loved how, you know, everyone, we've been through a lot, and with Kim, I agree with Kim, we're going to get through this. We are a resilient nation. But, you know, again, I will say for the people who just do ask, if you're a person out there who feels, I'm young, I'm healthy, I can take this on, I just beg of you to take a second with that thought process, because it's just not about us. It is really ultimately about how it affects every other person in our community. Right. And you know, because we do so want to hurry up and get to the point where we can move past this, it is imperative that we think about others right now, and not just ourselves. So
Absolutely. And that's a really great point, Alia. So because again, it's like that pebble, right? You throw it in the water, and if that pebble makes rings, if we don't align as a community, it's going to be difficult to meet the goals that we need to meet as a community. And that means, can you hear? No, okay. So I guess okay, so I guess we're going to wait 1 second. 1 second, 1 second. So, everybody who's out there who can hear me, make sure you tune in. Check out Aalia's page. That's Aalia Lanius, Unsugarcoated, Aalia Unsugarcoated, underscore Unsugarcoated. You can find her there. I will put that in, you can find that in my post, and I will be on her page at 2:30 in just 5 minutes. So if you want to join us there, please join us there. Again, check out Juggin by Aalia Lanius. Also, her other book, which is Tough Love, Tough Love, Tough Love, right? So check out Aalia and her 2 books, and check us out on her page in just 5 minutes. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.